the Bush Angler of the Year. It's a prize that's always ranked high in prestige, along with winning the Bassmasters Classic. It's all about consistency throughout the season, creating opportunities, and then maximizing them. As we come to the end of the 2003 CITGO Bassmaster Tour, the Angler of the Year race is as tight as it can possibly be. 1 point separating leader Alton Jones from second place Jay Yelas, the reigning Classic champ from 2002.
Look what I caught him on. Good thing I put the trailer hook on there, baby.
There's a three-time Angler of the Year in contention as well. Mark Davis of Arkansas is only 18 points behind Alton Jones. And Roger Bowler of Slidell, Louisiana is only 8 points behind. Next up, we'll get this tournament underway at Montgomery on the Alabama River and decide our $100,000 Bush Angler of the Year winner.
The CITGO Bassmaster Tournament Trail is presented by Bush.
This is what it looked like on the first day of the final event of the year for the CITGO Bassmaster Tour. Our 10th event of the year, the last regular season event before this summer's Bassmasters Classic. A 50-man field out there contesting a lot of different things on this very special place, the Alabama River near Montgomery, Alabama. And at the center of it all, the Bush Angler of the Year race. Hi, I'm Tommy Sanders. Welcome to the CITGO Bassmaster Tournament Trail. Let's take a look at this very special race. What a tussle it has been all year long. And there in the lead, Alton Jones of Texas. A 1 point lead over Jay Yelas. A lot of other guys in this race as well. Roger Bowler, Mark Davis, a 50-man field. So remember, we could have a 50-point swing here. Jerry McInnes is with us as always. Every place we've been this year, Jerry has had a different sort of character. The fish are a little different. The water's a little different. This place is no exception.
Well, we left the Federation Championship last week at Tuscaloosa. Wasn't it raining then?
It had been raining for 3 weeks.
Well, we've moved across the state today to Montgomery 1 week later, and it's still pouring down rain. Now, let me show you the playing field, though. Montgomery, as we said, is the takeoff spot. And we're going to fish the water above Montgomery all the way up to Jordan Dam, probably be below Montgomery, maybe 20 or 30 miles. And 3 weeks ago, this water was really high and out of its banks. When the tournament came along, it almost got back to normal. Then Mother Nature stepped in again, really dumped on us, and bam, there it was up and out of control again. So we have very high water to deal with, and most of the weekend bass anglers might just give it up for this particular weekend. These guys not only have to deal with it, they have to figure it out, and there's 2 or 3 anglers that have to figure it out big time.
Of course, one of them is certainly Alton Jones. Remember, he comes in here with a 1 point lead in the Bush Angler of the Year prize. That's always been a prestigious prize, but now with $100,000 on the line, it's more important than ever before. This is action from day number 1. These are the conditions that Alton faced. Like you said, Jerry, the river's up, it's everywhere.
And 1 point lead is practically nothing. And Alton really gets a tough start here. He has already missed a small spotted bass. He's going to fish that dock a little bit more and lose another really good fish. Hey, this is the biggest day of his fishing career, and he really gets started off on the wrong foot.
Obviously locating fish, but disappointing that he's missing them like that.
That was one I wanted right there. About a 4-pounder. Never got the opportunity to swing it. I don't know why they're pulling off. Bass 2, Alton 0.
Well, Tommy, a 2-0 start is not a good start for Alton.
No, he was in a bad spot to begin with, very precarious, and it seemed to get worse.
And during the week, I talked to him, during practice, he seemed to have it together, but he just got off to a little rugged start.
Such an important award. You know, we mentioned the $100,000, and Tom Wilson, the Bush Beer brand manager, is joining us now on site for this obviously very important week. And Tom, tell us something about how the connection got started between Bush Beer and the Bassmasters.
Well, Bush Beer's been a part of fishing for a long time. We've had our sponsorship with Denny Brower for a while, and ANHEUSER-BUSCH overall has really followed the outdoors, conservation, fishing, hunting. So it was a real natural fit when you looked at what we were looking for as a good property to match up with our brand.
Well, Tom, I know it was Bush's intention to make a huge impact on the sport almost immediately. You definitely have made a big splash with the Bush Angler of the Year award. I know you're very excited to be in Montgomery this week to hand that one out.
Absolutely. You know, the Bush Angler of the Year is a real, I think, attractive part of our sponsorship this year. When you look at the deal last year, I think the payout was about $20,000. We really want to reward these guys for what they do for a profession, and we've upped that to over $200,000 this year with the Angler of the Year getting $100,000, and we're real excited to give that award this year.
All right, Tom Wilson, thank you so much for your time. Some good background on the Bush Angler of the Year award. All right, we watched Alton Jones get off to that bad start, missing those 2 fish early. While that was happening, Jay Yelas was moving in a different direction. He was coming to the north, upstream, and negotiating some pretty sticky situations along the way.
The locals thought he was crazy for going up there. What he did was bring a jet boat, and he practiced in a jet boat, found the right path around the islands, through the rocks, the current, made his way up there to the dam. Now, what he wants to do is fish these bluffy banks. There's a dandy on the north bank, and there's a really good one over here on the south bank. And the locals thought he was crazy. I think the competitors did as well, because, and this blows my mind, Tommy, there was never a competitor in that area. He had the whole thing to himself.
Fishing here below Jordan Dam, it's such a treacherous run up here. I don't think I've ever negotiated water that treacherous in my whole career. And the water's up, so that makes it easier. I did bring a boat with a jet drive on the back of it just in case the river was lower. I brought that with me to the tournament this week to use if I needed to get up here. But the water's high enough, I don't need that jet boat right now. Still makes you pucker up, though, coming up through that moccasin gap. It's pretty dangerous.
Absolutely dangerous. Bear in mind, if Jay Yelas had torn up his motor on these rocks, he would have zeroed on this day and been out of the race.
And one thing we haven't talked a lot about yet is the fact that we're fishing for Coosa River spotted bass, and they're very difficult to catch. Alton proved that a second ago. Jay is doing the same thing here. Can't miss them today.
Oh, dadgummit. Just so tough with that current is just really flowing right towards me. That fish swam at me and I just couldn't catch up with him.
The Coosa River spotted bass is a totally different creature. We'll learn all about that, more about that today. It's not the easiest fish in the world to land. As we look again at our Bush Angler of the Year leaderboard, who's going to make the move? Who's going to clinch the championship? To add to the pressure, an almost unbearable storm coming this way, headed for the competition. We'll find out how Roger Bowler fared. And if Alton Jones can hang on, that's when we return.
It's an adventure. It's an adventure fishing in a tail race.
The CITGO Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by CITGO, by Bush, and by Skeeter.
Final tournament of the year on the CITGO Bassmaster Tour on the Alabama River system. This is the flooded Coosa River up above Montgomery. This time we are focusing on the Bush Angler of the Year race during the first 2 days of this tournament. This was our leader coming in, Alton Jones of Waco, Texas. He had his troubles when the day got started, missing a couple of really, really good fish. Same story for Jay Yelas up near the dam on Jordan Lake. Just couldn't get those fish to hang on. And now a big storm has taken center stage, so these anglers have even more to fight as they really battle for this Bush Angler of the Year title.
Oh, did you see that lightning that just hit there? Looks like these guys would quit, Tommy, and take a break in this.
Not a chance, Yelas.
Hey, we are very focused on the Angler of the Year race, and well, we should be, but we do have 50 anglers on this water who are trying to qualify to the top 12 to get over to our course.
So water here, so watch out.
There's a lot of things going on here.
Roger Bowler of Slidell, Louisiana, spent a lot of time during this season near the top of the Bush Angler of the Year statistics. Started out today 8 points behind leader Alton Jones.
I think that he just got way too far behind, and not only did he have to have a great event, the other two guys ahead of him had really fallen.
Daddy loves you, son.
Roger started out slowly at the first event of the year, but the second one at Lake Okeechobee, he pulled off a second place and then followed that up later in the season with a third in California in the San Joaquin River Delta.
He had 5 top 20 finishes. That's fabulous for a guy just out here for the second year.
Yes. Double whammy.
Give me 5,
Good job.
partner.
Good job, man.
Is that a little bit frightening right there? How'd you like to be in a bass boat right in the middle of that? Well, that's what Jay Yelas braved to get to his spot on this morning of the first day. Of course, he's the only angler that made that decision to make the run up there, and finally he starts catching some fish.
If Jay wins Bass Angler of the Year, it's a good bet that he did it in practice.
Okay,
he put a lot of effort and thought into how do I catch these fish even before the event started.
Well, it took him, in fact, about 35 minutes to get up there, and after, as you saw, some false starts, some fish coming off, he hits the stretch that pays off for him. It happens in the blink of an eye. He's got 4 fish by 7 a.m.
Well, he knew those fish were up against those bluffs, and he puts a couple of them in the boat, and boy, his confidence is sky high.
Woo! Good night, these fish are crazy. Telling you, these fish are more fun than smallmouth any day. And that's saying a whole lot.
And there's Jay's lures of choice, a jig and a tube. The main thing here is that they are heavy. They have to be able to fish them in that strong current like he's doing.
All the shorelines are flooded, just flooded trees way up in the trees. And right up here below the dam, there's like 4 rock outcroppings where you can get right up and bang the rocks with your boat. And the fish, when the water's high, they love to get on spots like this where they can actually get to the bank for that hard edge. And I think all the fish in this river have come up here. I mean, I don't know, it's just speculation, but it seems like the fish that live in this upper end of this river have all ganged up on these 3 or 4 rock faces by this dam.
Well, Jay knows they're there, and you can bet he's not about to let up at this point. Jay doesn't know how Alton Jones is doing this point. Alton Jones doesn't know how Jay's doing, so they both figure they got to catch at least 14, 15 pounds to stay in this Bush Angler of the Year race.
And are you looking at the size of these spotted bass? If Jay keeps that up, he's going to have a 15-pound stringer.
Well, that's 5, 2.5 pounder again.
So a limit for Jay Yelas. Meanwhile, downstream, how was Alton Jones doing? Well, not nearly so well. The rain was much heavier downstream. He missed those fish. All those things add up, and the result was he was making moves earlier in the day than he had expected to.
It really gets mental right here. Now, Jay thinks he can do no wrong. Alton is just the opposite. Just can't get it together.
Well, that's not a largemouth. That's a good spot right here. Not a big one, just a keeper. He's in the boat.
Well, it was a little bit later in the morning, but they finally did turn on for him, as did Alton Jones' ability to put him in the boat. The problem is they were smaller fish than Jay Yelas was catching upstream.
You know what? Spotted bass are really bad about schooling up in size classes. And it looks like Jay's fish up there around the dam are all
the big one,
2 to 4 pounds. Alton's are not quite that big.
Alton winds up with about 6 pounds by 9 a.m., half of what Jay Yelas has landed.
Not as big as I thought it was, but boy, compared to what I've been catching, these look big. Okay. Glad we came back up here.
Now over to Roger Bowler. He started today before the tournament began, 8 points behind the leader, Alton Jones. And this is what happened to him.
Where you going? Yeah!
That was a good fish. It might not have won the Bush Angler of the Year title for Roger Bowler.
Well, you can't tell, boy. It could have changed his whole attitude. He might have fished differently the rest of the day, but I tell you what, everything was going so good for Jay. He even had the sun come out for him.
That's a real one.
Jay Yelas with a nice limit of spotted bass, 15 pounds, 15 ounces. Let's take a look at the leaderboard. After the first day's competition, see where that landed Jay right there in 6th place. The overall leader, though, after the first day, having obviously found some largemouth, Takahiro Omori of Emory, Texas, 21 pounds, 5 ounces, almost 2.5 pounds ahead of the rest of the field. Now, the Bush Angler of the Year leaderboard, Jay Yelas takes over the lead. Mark Davis makes a slight move. He gained 3 points on Jay Yelas there. He's now only 15 points behind him. Alton Jones with the poor showing on day number 1, 30th place only. He's going to find it all but impossible to climb back into that Bush Angler of the Year race. Same story for Roger Bowler. So Davis, the only guy left with a legitimate shot.
And we've had Jay Yelas in the mix all year long, but after that first day of qualifying, he was on top for the very first time.
Hard to believe.
That's amazing. And Mark Davis made a really great run today, but I think that in order for Jay to lose, he would have to hit a rock going to the dam, and that is a possibility.
He's the guy with the best shot at doing that. That is for sure. We'll pick it up with day 2 action, see if Mark Davis can make the jump when we return. CITGO Bassmaster Tour, our final event of the year on the Alabama River in Montgomery, Alabama. Let's take a look at the leaderboard from day number 1. Takahiro Omori on top, and look at the other names, our contenders for the Bush Angler of the Year award, where they finished on day number 1. Here's the Angler of the Year standings after day number 1. So Mark Davis right here is the only man with a real shot at catching Jay Yelas, who took the risk, ran upstream through rough waters, and had a dream day on the first day.
And unfortunately for everybody else, Jay started his second day just like he ended his first day, fishing those rock faces below the dam and catching those solid Coosa River spots. Jay had 15 pounds, 15 ounces on day 1. Felt like he could land his first Bush Angler of the Year title with about 12 pounds on day 2. He started off, landed his first 4 fish, but they were only maybe 6 pounds. He knew he needed more than that.
Again, on the second day of this tournament, the only man with a shot at catching Jay Yelas was this man, Mark Davis. On day 1 of the tournament, he had gained 3 spots on Yelas with a fantastic day. 17 pounds, 7 ounces, anchored by a huge bass, a 6-pound, 8-ounce largemouth, the biggest fish of the tournament. You've got to applaud Mark Davis's strategy. Look at the place he's fishing. It doesn't look like any of the other places these guys are fishing. He found some backwater, some places that look like ponds or lakes, like he fishes back home in Arkansas. He fished his strengths on day number 1, had some great results. The thing about choosing the largemouth strategy is you've got to catch a big largemouth to beat these guys who are catching a limit of 3- and 4-pound spots.
He fished a buzzbait and a brush hog, but his day 2 was not what he needed to catch Jay. Didn't get the size fish he did on day 1.
Again, all this time, Jay Yelas did not know what was going on with Mark Davis. He only knew he had to keep his head down, keep fishing, catch as many of those good spotted bass as he could. He caught one that almost put him out of reach.
There's a big one. Oh, come on. There's a tub. There's a Coosa River spotted bass. That one will push 4 pounds. Big old gut. Look at the gut on that fish. That's a gut for a spotted bass. Yeah, that thing will go 4.
That fat fish put Jay at 10 pounds on the day. Made him feel a whole lot better, but still did not have him convinced that he had clinched the title. But at 8:18 in the morning, Jay pitched his tube up against the rocks and landed the Bush Angler of the Year clinching fish.
And Jay, I'm proud of him. He makes a run through waters that nobody else would take a chance on. He gets on a roll, and he finishes what he starts, just like a champ.
That one. Woo! Oh, that's a Coosa River spot. Yeah, these spots are different. Most spotted bass have small mouths. These fish have a great big mouth, like a large mouth, but they've got the spotted bass genes. They're kind of a cross between a spot and a largemouth. How about it?
And how about Alton Jones? Started his year very slowly, at least for him, but built momentum through the season. The big win at Clear Lake put him on top coming into the last one.
Yeah, I will never forget that victory of his on Clear Lake. And he fell out of the lead here yesterday, but he didn't give up, though. He came through with a strong finish.
Alton Jones, a valiant effort here on day number 2, and it actually does him a lot of good. We'll get to that in just a moment or two. Right now, though, Jay Yelas, take a look at that. He climbs all the way into second place in this tournament, 34 pounds, 1 ounce. Your leader, KENYON Hill of Norman, Oklahoma, 36 pounds even. Now, Alton Jones finishes 19th place after 2 days of fishing. That jumps him back up over Mark Davis into second place in the Bush Angler of the Year competition. Good enough for $20,000, and of course, our Bush Angler of the Year, the $100,000 prize, and all the traditional prestige of this great award goes to Jay Yelas, who was overjoyed at that prospect.
Oh my, what a season.
It has been. It's been an incredible year of fish, and you know, this has been a dream of mine ever since I caught my first bass when I was 16 years old. Started following the Bassmaster tournament trail on TV and reading Bassmaster magazine. I always dreamt about winning the Angler of the Year title one day, and it's always eluded me. I've never really had even a chance to win the title until this year, and it just so happened I didn't lead the race until the very last tournament of the year, and overcame my great friend Alton Jones and stole it away in the last tournament. But it was just a dream come true.
Well, what a year! One of the most incredible Angler of the Year races of all time. We've had different leaders, it seems like, every week. 1 point differences between the guys. It's just been incredible. And for 2003, the man on top when it's all over, Jay Yelas, your Busch Angler of the Year.
Didn't play it safe either.
No.
He could have fished right there in Montgomery in this event and probably made it, but not Jay. He went right straight to the dam.
Through all the rocks and everything.
Yes,
much
sir.
to his credit, and as a result, he's going to be piloting one of the 12 boats that are left in this tournament who will fish on day number 3. And for that, we're moving just a little further away from Montgomery to a place that's often been called the greatest spotted bass fishery in America. From the starting field of 50, we're now down to 12 pros who will advance to the 3rd day of competition. They include 2 anglers who have won at tour stops already here in 2003. And of course, last year's Bassmasters Classic champion and now Busch Angler of the Year, Jay Yelas. But for round 3, they all begin at the same place. All the weights are 0. So these pros will again deal with more current, with the frustration of landing these spotted bass to try and advance to the finals. The CITGO Bassmaster Tour, our final event of the year from Montgomery, Alabama. We are down to 12 boats as the takeoff begins on this 3rd day of competition, and we have moved upstream to Lake Jordan, and we've laid out our 6-hole course.
And each one of those holes is about a mile long, and we're going to take 2 boats and put in each one of those holes, fish them for an hour and 20 minutes before they rotate. And a little FYI for you, Tommy, right there is Jordan Dam. Right below it is where we just watched Jay Yelas win the Busch Angler of the Year contest, so he ought to be pretty comfortable. And Kenyon Hill was our leader after the first 2 qualifying days, so I think it's appropriate we start with him there in hole number 4.
I opted to start down here because we have some great combination of rocks and current. The little shad even kind of busted up right there in that eddy water, so with any luck we'll be able to slide up here and catch us a few right on this break. You can see how the current's ripping around this corner here.
Over to Harold Allen from Shelbyville, Texas. Harold Allen has qualified for the Bassmasters Classic this year, his 14th Classic that he'll be fishing this summer.
Now, wait a minute. You mean there's a tournament going on here as well, Tommy? I thought this was just Angler of the Year.
Oh, yeah. We are in the thick of the tournament, and it's an important one, too.
It really is. You know, we had 50 guys begin this event over on the Alabama River, and I realize we've explained that once already, but I wanted to say again that we've narrowed the field down to 12. Found our Angler of the Year, then narrowed the field down to 12.
See that other angler in the boat there? Each of the 12 pros has an amateur angler in the boat as well. This is their championship day. So we'll have 2 guys in each boat, 2 boats in each of the 6 holes.
Big spotted bass, Harold. Little ones aren't going to do it.
That's why we're throwing a jig. Tore my trailer all to pieces.
All of hole number 4 that we're watching here is sort of recent add-on to the lake. Now, when we first saw Kenyon Hill, he was on one side of a road bed that runs all the way across right in front of the dam. He's now moved over to the other bank.
Another big spotted bass there.
That's a good one.
Kenyon Hill and Harold Allen are both in the same hole, but Kenyon is just on the road bed there, and he's working very hard to find out where these fish are positioning. Now, the water is pouring down through hole number 4. It hits both points and forms a most important eddy, or a still area, on the back side of each one of those points. The boat is so hard to hold in the right position here, but Kenyon so far has got it together.
Back over to Harold Allen. Now, his spot looks a little bit more placid, like there's less current, but I can tell you just about every place on Lake Jordan here is affected by this current, so Harold's definitely feeling it.
And Harold and Kenyon have got 2 different patterns going. I think that's really interesting. Harold is, of course, pitching a little jig up there in the grass, and Kenyon is fishing the road bed that we were just watching. And I'm here to tell you that an hour and 20 minutes is not enough time to really figure out each one of these holes. And, well, earlier in the season, I remember Rick Clunn saying that this format moving from hole to hole was the absolute ultimate test for bass fishermen finding fish. And boy, that's what we've got going on right here.
We hate to keep harping on this current, but you don't think there's been some current ripping through this area right here, especially this lake. Take a look at that sandbank right there, just recently chewed away. Man, we've had about 3 solid weeks of rain here in Alabama, and they're still reeling from it. Harold Allen's still reeling, but he doesn't have a fish on there.
I think what the deal is, he's got some spotted bass cornered over there against that grass. Can't catch them.
Slow down, Harold. Slow down, slow down, slow down.
Slow down, Harold. It's hard to slow down in this format. You've got an hour and 20 minutes. I hate to keep saying that, but you've got so much water, and you know, you keep looking around and you think, boy, I ought to be over there on that point. I ought to try back in the back end of that pocket. And this is the kind of thing that you have to control. And as Harold says, slow down.
Control because you don't do any area justice if you keep hopping around, right?
Yeah, I think you just have to pick a spot. You just have to pick an area. And obviously it would be an area that looks good to you, and then just work it over really good and not pay any attention to what else is going on. And don't pay attention to the guy in the back of the boat who's just wearing you out.
That's Bill CHICOS from Valparaiso, Indiana. All in all, I'd say these trolling motors get better use on a format like this.
Be prepared, because I probably will be jumping around a good bit. In all likelihood. Like now. Fish around it, and then the next point back, probably.
There's one.
That's Peter T's amateur partner, Brandon Norris from Haleyville, Alabama.
And we will crown our amateur champion at the end of this day. And I'm always impressed when I see the guy in the back of the boat fishing like this. In other words, he's not up there in the front trying to compete with Pete. You'd be crazy to do that. He's got himself a small crankbait, and I realize you can't always do this, but it's sure working out this time. He's got a small crankbait fishing water that Peter T is just going right past.
There he is.
Hey, good?
Pretty good fish.
You want to need help with him?
No. I got some braided line on here. I'm just gonna
swing him in. Good job.
Sling him in a double to start off the morning.
That's a good start.
Heck yeah, spotting a largemouth.
Got another one.
Takahiro Omori, we're covering the top 6 of our 12 qualifiers for this 3rd day's competition. And Takahiro was our leader after the first day. And Takahiro has also qualified for the Bassmasters Classic. That's a relief to him because he was sweating that one out coming into this tournament.
Man, he was sweating that out.
Hey, fish off. Look out.
Right there, too. Oh, no. Hey, Takahiro's throwing a crankbait right now. And I think that's a really great idea to fish a crankbait in water you're not familiar with, because it covers lots of water, it covers lots of depths, and obviously it's a very productive lure.
Want to have fun today.
Yeah, we're having fun already. Takahiro with some good hookups early there. This is back to Brandon Norris. This is Peter Thilvero's amateur partner, and he's hooked up again.
And he's throwing that little crankbait as well.
He may not be, but
sometimes a crankbait will not catch the bigger fish. I still think these guys pitching jigs up and around the grass and on the roadbed like KENYON Hill was doing. I think a jig might produce a little bit better sized fish.
That is the 3rd keeper going into the box for Brandon Norris. And Peter T is not blind. He's checking all that out, and he's checking out his own box, trying to scrounge up a crankbait. When we come back, stay with us here in Alabama. We're going to check in with Jay Yelas and Pete Pons. Don't go away.
The CITGO Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Chevy Trucks, by Mercury, and by Diamond Cut Jeans.
Our season finale on the CITGO Bassmaster Tour 2003, the Alabama River System. We're based in Montgomery. 3rd day action. We got 12 anglers out there shooting for 6 spots in the finals. We're covering 6 of those anglers today. Here are the scores as they finish the 1st period of fishing.
Yeah, we're catching a few largemouth bass, but mostly spotted bass. Coosa River spotted bass. And we're on Lake Jordan, but above us is Lake Mitchell, then Lay Lake, then Martin. And all these lakes are full of that strain of spotted bass.
Here's our course, a 6-hole course. These 12 anglers are fishing today, so that means 2 boats in each hole at the same time. 5 holes basically on the main river part of the lake. Hole number 4 is in what they call the new lake. Here's Pete Pons.
And we have made a move, haven't we?
That's right. We moved up to hole number 6, about to begin our second hour and 20-minute period of fishing Pete ponds here in the hole with Jay Yelas.
And did you realize that Pete's father fished in the first Bassmaster event ever on Beaver Lake many years ago?
I did not. How do you know that?
Well, I know what you're thinking. No, I wasn't there.
That's what I was going to say.
But that is a little bit of history there. We're proud of old Pete for making this this finals with us.
He's had by far his best year ever out here on the Bassmaster Tour.
And you know, I guess we'd be complaining about the water conditions and the water clarity and so on if they weren't catching so doggone many fish. But actually, this is very fishable water. The water temperature is probably 71, 72. That's good. The color makes the fish a little bit more active. And just don't pay as much attention to the boats and the fishermen.
So Jay Yelas with the rare largemouth this week. Let's go back down to the little canal that separates 4 and 5. That's where we're going to find Kenyon Hill.
But this is the right kind of stuff for those big spots. They really like this current. They'll set up in it and ambush the shad. There's a ton of shad. I've had shad follow spinnerbaits up, and well, this is the right kind of stuff. It's all we can do on a trolling motor to hold and to make any kind of progress.
Kenyon is so right. Boy, that current coming down through hole number 5 through that canal is really tough. It's the strongest on the course, I guess, and Kenyon is swimming a jig off that bank.
What a fish.
We heard Kenyon say this is the right kind of stuff, so he's actively seeking as much current as he can find, isn't he?
Yeah, and boy, we're getting a good view of a mean fish right here. These spotted bass are just... Man, they are so... Hey, these guys are really good at swinging their fish into the boat. They can't do it on some of these spotted bass. Now Kenyon is actually doing a figure 8, going back and forth and trying to wear that fish down. He'll get him to where he can control him a little bit and then kind of get down there with him and catch him in the jaw and just set him over in the boat. Tommy, I tell you what, swinging him doesn't do it with these Coosa River spotted bass.
These guys don't use nets out here, so they need all the skills. They need to be able to put those fish in the boat like that. They also need to be able to hold that boat against current like that. They got to find the fish. All the skills come into play on a tournament like this one.
There you go. That's a nice spotted bass. Boy, they're so mean.
Back over to Jay Yelas, and Jerry, you mentioned it earlier, a couple of locks up on the Coosa River here is Lay Lake. That's certainly the most important lake in Jay Yelas' career. That's where he won the Classic last summer.
They may put a monument about Jay on this whole chain here because it has certainly been, boy, it has really been good to him, hasn't it? Hey, you know what? All these fish are shallow. We haven't seen any fish deep at all. The spots are the largemouth.
You just hop that jig along these banks. Next thing you know, old Jed's a millionaire. Getting torn up. Ungrateful bass. Spend all the time, you know, to bite it off just so and dye it just perfect. What do? Tear it up.
Sure, they tear it up. That's what those spotted bass are supposed to do. Kenyon, hey, folks, watch Kenyon's rod. He is so in tune with that bait. Again, it is not bumping on the bottom all the time. We have a situation where he's actually swimming the jig, getting it out in the current, pulling off that bank. The current catches it and swims it. And sometimes the strike is violent, sometimes it's not.
That's 5, isn't it?
A 5-fish limit for Kenyon Hill. All the work these guys are having to do, all the difficulties of holding the boat in current like this, all the anxiety of fishing for a limited period of time in 6 different holes. But I tell you what, each one of the guys I've talked to prefers this kind of fishing, where you're catching a lot of fish, where there's always a challenge there, and always the potential to score big. And speaking of time limits, that time period for the second period of fishing has run out. It's time for hole number 3. Takahiro Omori looking at that map they gave all the anglers before the competition started today. A 6-hole course. We've got 2 boats in each hole, and you can see we start at the dam here on Lake Jordan. Most of our holes along the main river part there, one in what they call the new lake. Each hole about a mile square if you could square each of them off.
12 fishermen on the water. We're only covering 6. We're going to get to the finals with 6 anglers, and they all have this in mind today. Find some locations, practice, make sure you're ready for the final day, but catch enough fish along the way where you're going to survive.
Harold Allen here has fished 227 BASS events, and he'll be the first to tell you that this format, like no other, tests the fishermen.
I fished over 20 years for competition, probably for a living close to 30 years. And I fished a lot of pressure situations, but this 12 fishermen on a 12-hole course with an hour and 20 minutes per hole with no prior knowledge of the lake and $100,000 on the line is pretty stout. I mean, you know, I fished in 14 classics, but it seemed like 14 classics, I got 3 days to get it together, lose it to get it together. But this deal here, this is pretty tough, I'm telling you. It'll work on you.
Well, this format has worked on Peter Thilveros a little bit this year. He has made the top 12 3 times. Now in Eufaula, Alabama, he successfully made it to the top 6. Out in California, he only made the 10th spot, so he didn't make it into the top 6 in the last tournament. Down in Lake Hamilton in Arkansas, he missed it by 1 slot.
And I am sure that is on his mind. He is in hole number 5, and
That's a nice one.
you will remember that is the good hole. That's where Kenyon Hill was catching them down that bank. Peter T is not in the channel right now, but he is fishing that point. He is in some good current, and Peter T is kind of on the bubble for making it to the finals here.
Right, we are covering 6 of the 12 teams shooting at those 6 spots today, and we've had mixed results from among them. Kenyon Hill obviously doing quite well, along with Harold Allen. Peter T, as you say, on the bubble, but we will find out about all 12 anglers before this day is done. When we come back, the last 2 periods of fishing, that's a little over 2.5 hours, and a lot can happen in that time, so don't go away. CITGO Bassmaster Tour, our final event of the year. Lake Jordan near Montgomery, Alabama. 12 anglers fishing for 6 spots in the finals. We're in the last 2 periods of fishing here, and Kenyon Hill has just tied on a buzzbait.
Kenyon made the final 6 there at Hamilton 2 weeks ago and went out and got skunked. Boy, we let him have it over that, but he's making up for it today. And this fish, as you say, came on a buzzbait. Hole number 2, Kenyon's Cully.
Isn't it? This one? For this one? Okay. Let me think. There we go.
Kenyon Hill will certainly upgrade his catch with that fish right there. Kenyon took charge of this tournament on day number 2. He's still the man in charge with 1 period left to fish. He's got 14 pounds. That's about a 3-pound lead over the other 2 anglers who have a limit thus far. Harold Allen and Peter Thilveros, and current such a big part of every fish catch out there. And nowhere is that current faster, more ripping than in that little canal between 4 and 5.
Yeah, you know, I love that road bed down at hole number 4.
Good current there,
we
too.
We talked about that earlier, but you're right, that canal. But in between the upper lake and the lower lake, actually, it's just a funnel shooting that water down through there. It's so swift that these guys have a hard time with their rig. You know, they can't hardly hold themselves with the trolling motor. Well, there are some of the catches from just the guys we are covering. So that has been a very productive spot. Hole number 5 in that canal, and many of the guys are throwing jigs. Harold Allen is fishing one real slow off the bottom in the back end of the pockets and in the grass. Kenyon Hill, on the other hand, is fishing the canal with a rascal jig, a brown jig, fishing it real slow, letting the current catch it and actually wash it downstream. He wants it to look like a crawdad.
Here's Harold Allen, hole number 1, and he is working that jig. And Harold has seen a lot in his long career with the Bassmasters.
Boy, he certainly has. And you know, something that I've noticed all day long is Harold fishes with a little bit shorter rod than everybody else. And I don't know exactly why. I think it's probably because he's been doing that for 85 years, and Harold probably thinks that's the way to do it.
Maybe it hasn't been quite 85 years, but why would you want the longer rod? What are the advantages of that?
Well, if he was doing it 85 years, I was doing it with him. But I tend to think that a longer rod will give you a little bit more leverage, especially if you're fishing in the brush. But a short rod, in Harold's case, I'm sure he's very comfortable with it. I think he has a real good feel.
Oh, Takahiro.
Takahiro just about...
He needs longer arms because he almost lost that fish.
He's had fumbleitis all day long, hasn't he? 5 fish, though.
No real big ones just yet for Takahiro. He's still looking for some bigger fish. Let's take a look at this one again. Watch this closely. Watch where that lure pops out of his mouth. Right there. Ooh.
That fish is gone. Oh, Takahiro.
Oh, man. He had his luck working for him today.
Well, I said that those spotted bass were hard to hook, and Takahiro has proven me right. And Harold Allen.
Oh, man, I think he broke that one off, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
Not happy about that. Harold really wanted to ice this thing to make sure of his spot in the final 6. Over to Pete Pons right now. Pete's one of those guys who's qualified for the Bassmasters Classic through the Federation, so he's been to the show. That's a limit for him right there. He's also in line for his best payday of the year. And how about his amateur partner?
How about the back of the boat? Richard Predmore from Georgia. And if he puts this fish in the boat, he'll have a limit. And the amateurs have done very well today. I think this whole course has been conducive to the amateurs. It allows them to have as many opportunities to catch fish as the guy in the front of the boat. Sometimes, Tommy, you know what? When that current is so bad, the guy in the back of the boat really has an advantage.
Little bit of an advantage. Richard Predmore from Bainbridge, Georgia. Why does that sound bad? A nice spot. Bainbridge, of course, is one of the bass fishing capitals of the world. You can't grow up in that place without some bass fishing rubbing off on you.
That's right, Lake Seminole. But no Coosa River spots down there.
No, nothing like this fish. And Pete's got himself one, too. He's got an audience as well.
Oh, yeah, that'll do it.
That'll do it. And back over to Harold Allen. Last time we saw Harold, he was fit to be tied. He had that fish, broke him off
He
there.
lost several fish today, but I tell you what I think is interesting. Look at the bank and look at the grass. Harold is fishing exactly like he started the day, and he's still flipping that jig right over in that grass, fishing at about the same depth, and doing very well, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, Harold is right in line to make the cut to 6. He's looking good to make it to the finals here. But before we get to the weigh-in, let's take a look at our fish catches today.
Oh, this is very interesting. This is the catches, again, of the 6 fishermen we were fishing with. And as you can see, they're solid in most of the areas. Tommy, the unusual thing is only 2 fish off the roadbed in hole number 4. I bet that'll change next week.
Speaking of hole number 4, let's take you to where 4 becomes 5 in that canal with all that current ripping through there. That's where we find our catch of the day. Kenyon Hill, man, has he figured out this current or what? He hooks up with a big Coosa River spot and artfully plays it. Does a great job of getting that big fish in the boat. That's our catch for today. Time to crank it up and head on back to the weigh-in. We're about to weigh in all 12 of our contenders from today and see who'll be the Super 6 who will fish in the finals coming up right here, same time next week. Plenty of surprises on the way and plenty of big fish to see at the weigh-in, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
The CITGO Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Yamaha, by CITGO, and by Busch.
Welcome back, and it is weigh-in time here in downtown Montgomery. The first order of business is to recognize our amateur champ, Alabama's own Jamie Horton, an impressive winning weight of 14 pounds, 7 ounces.
Championship and $36,000.
Pro Martin Menendez of Kentucky kicked things into gear on the pro side, marking his second top 6 of the year with 13 pounds and 5 ounces.
5 ounces!
Well, that's great, I tell you. That is a fabulous place to fish. I'm telling you, Claude, it's one of the best places I've been in a long time. I got probably 30, 35 bites today, catching them several different ways, and I caught some the way I like to do it at home, and I found one little place. I made 7 casts in a row and loaded up on 7 good ones, and I'm looking forward to having a chance to get back and throw at those again tomorrow.
This guy's going back to the classic. Welcome, Brent
Chapman of Kansas found a whole bunch of spotted bass in the same size class, and it was a pretty good size. He found himself in his first finals of the year with 12 pounds and 12 ounces.
12 ounces, 12. They're all around 2 1/4 pounds.
Yeah, they are fish. You know, I came up probably a little short. You know, I caught a ton of fish today. I just didn't get that big bite.
You'll recognize this guy. He was the 1995 Bassmasters Classic champ, Mark Davis.
Mark Davis made his second straight Super 6 finals with a limit of 12-14. Maybe he, more than anyone else in this field, knows what it takes to get the job done tomorrow.
Another final.
It's good to be back.
I bet it is. You had a strong finish up on Lake Hamilton in Arkansas.
Thought I was going to win that one. That was a heartbreaker.
Edwin Evers walked away with the
Edwin Evers made the Super 6 earlier this year on Lake Eufaula in Alabama and went on to win that tournament. He's positioned himself to do that again with a 13-pound, 10-ounce limit.
13-10, mark that weight. Look at you. I'm going to start calling you Mr. Alabama if you pull this thing off.
Hey, I'd love to fish. Man, that Lake Jordan's got a lot of bass in it. I had a lot of fun up there today, and I just hope I can make it and fish again tomorrow, and it's a neat lake.
Harold Allen, anxious at times today, frustrated too, but boy, did he get the job done. He hits the finals in second place with 14.5.
I went out there this morning, and man, an hour on a lake you've never seen before, fishing against 12 of the toughest guys in the country, and an hour and 20 minutes of pop, it's gone before you know it.
Kenyon Hill.
Maybe we should call him the current leader because he is, and because Kenyon Hill found a way to make the current work for him. Best stringer of the day, and he'll lead the Super 6 into the finals.
Great day, Fish, great day. You know, it's, we rode the lake yesterday, and like I said, Pete, we've been roommates since like '85. You know, we're best of buds, and we rode it together. And I was in lead yesterday, so I got to pick, and I picked stuff that was close to what I was used to fishing. Was stuff with current, and then went from there. And once I got out of the current, I struggled a little bit, but later in the afternoon, I kind of figured out how to catch a few anyway when the sun comes up and gets nice and hot. So hopefully it'll work out for me tomorrow.
Kenyon Hill, he's been reluctant to let go of that lead over the past 2 days, and so he takes the lead into the final day of competition, doing battle against the rest of the Super 6, all of them separated by less than 3 pounds, so we got the promise of terrific competition on that last day.
Kenyon's #1, so he gets to pick which hole #1. I say he'll take 4, go right straight to that road bed.
Yep.
Mark Menendez is predicting that he'll catch a limit out of 1 hole, but he wouldn't tell us which hole. And I'm predicting, here it comes, boy.
All right.
I'm going to say we're going to see some great Coosa River spotted bass next week.
We're going way out on the limb there. It comes your way this same time next week, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Time on Saturday morning. Before we leave, one last look at our 2003 Bush Angler of the Year. He could have played it safe this week, but he went out and got it done. Yelas.
Big old gut. Look at the gut on that fish.
This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For more, log on to ESPNOutdoors.com.